Okay, you're now streaming.
Okay. Go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for the regular session. Sorry.
Okay, you're now streaming. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll start over. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening for the regular session of the Philomath School District Board of Directors on June 21st, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. We'll go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please go ahead and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to welcome our incoming board members. I think I noticed all of them here with us this evening. That's Rick Wells, Aaron Gudge, and Joe Daly. Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and move on to our public comments and requests. I know we received two of the public comments via email, and I'm going to read the first of those now. And I believe we have a student here in person that will call on next to give public comments. So the first one I have is from PHS staff, and it was addressed to Susan Halliday and school board members. To whom it may concern, the Philomath High School staff want to express to the superintendent and school board members the incredible support we have received from our school counselor, Kim St. Clair. This year has not only been challenging to staff and students academically, but has been mentally and emotionally taxing as well. Kim has gone above and beyond this year as a counselor and a supportive coworker. She has offered words of encouragement, quickly and efficiently solved the issues she could, and worked to find ways to improve or mitigate even those situations over which she had little control. Staff members brought many students in serious crisis situations to Kim throughout the year. She welcomed them with kindness, compassion, and empathy. She is phenomenal at connecting kids to the services they need while also providing a stable, supportive environment at the school. She both encourages ownership and offers hope and inspiration to all students. Kim is often the go-to person for staff concerns, both large and small. She makes the staff in our building feel supported and heard. She always makes herself available when staff have concerns about students who will not engage, or parents who are apprehensive about their students' grades or performance, or any of the other situations that happen throughout the year. While not expected, these situations can be overly time-consuming while maintaining the status quo within our classes. Kim does an outstanding job of just listening to our concerns and worries about judgment and offering kind words and validation of our feelings, as well as possible actions or options. She is an outstanding counselor. We understand that district administrators are under a great deal of stress and are just as overloaded as the teachers and staff in our district. We have all increased our workload, committed extra time, and navigated unusual working conditions. Kim St. Clair's professional conduct and her ability to communicate well with the staff provide an extra measure of respite, assistance, and relief to us here at the high school. She is quick to act, always positive, and always supportive. Because she has done so much for our students, our staff, and our school, we want her efforts to be publicly acknowledged and recognized. Please join us in offering this public appreciation and gratitude for all she has accomplished this year and in all her time here at Philomath High School. Thank you, Philomath High School educators. So thank you, Mrs. St. Clair. Okay, our second public comment, I would like to invite Chloe Gervais to go ahead and speak to the board. Please go ahead, Chloe.
All right.
Welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Okay. When you walk into the Philomath Gymnasium, you are able to look back and peer into history. You can see the wins, but also the years in which Philomath had long stretches of losses. Currently, there are no tennis state banners hanging on those walls. There isn't even one being ordered. I'm Chloe Jerva, and I'm one of the girls out of the 3 that was able to secure the state win for the 2021 competitive season. I played the highest level of play that was possible for this abnormal year. It's true, OSIA didn't sponsor this year's competition, and that did make it abnormal from previous years. But wasn't this entire COVID year abnormal? We entered into a bracket and our girls team placed first, and this competition was the highest level 4A that was given this year. Throughout this entire process, Principal Bessard and Athletic Director Mata never seemed to be on our team. At our district's championship awards, Mr. Mata, who was in charge of the event, awarded everyone else their medals, even the Philomath Girls District's Champion Award, before me and Atira Fairbanks. Atira had to remind him to award us our silver medals as he'd completely forgotten about us. Although this may be considered a small mishap, this carelessness hurts and is exactly what happens for girls' sports. Additionally, during third period on the day after we'd won the state title, Nicholas Stuckey and I were walking through the hall and Principal Bessard passed us. He said to Nick, Congratulations, Mr. Stuckey, while completely ignoring me. Of course, I'm proud of Nick and the boys' accomplishments at state, but the girls' team placed higher at both state and districts. This interaction was a direct comparison between girls and boys' sports teams. Even with the girls outperforming the boys, what we accomplished are not celebrated or recognized by the Philomath High School's leadership. I would also like to add that Buzz never once congratulated me or Atira, even though we had many interactions with him, giving him many chances to do so. Those 2 days of state matches made me miss 2 days that would have been important for my education. On the first day of state, which was on Monday, my calculus class had a study group to prepare for the AP test. Of course, I was not able to attend that. That Tuesday was my AP Lit test, which I was not able to make it to either because we won state that day. The remake for the test was the second to last day of school, causing me to miss the first day of my calculus final, making it so I had to take 2 finals on one day. I acknowledge that I have to make educational sacrifices for my sports, and I've been making these sacrifices for the past 4 years of high school. However, when I'm not recognized for the accomplishments my team and I have made, I have to question what the point was of even trying to begin with. I missed many important lessons and days of work, causing me a lot of academic stress in that last month of school, and if we don't get a banner, that was all for nothing. This problem isn't something that just Tira and I care about, or even just our families. On Friday, we made a petition for people to sign to show their support for this issue, which has more than 600 signatures, including previous state champions, one being Kevin Voss. There seems to be a theme in Philomath. Boys sports and core sports like football, baseball, and basketball get the most recognition, attention, and funds. I can handle it when it comes from the student body. That's a problem that Philomath's ASB tries to mend. However, when it comes from the school's leaders, that is when it stings the most. We deserve a banner and the support from the leaders in this district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chloe. So this, I commend you for coming before the board to represent you and your team's accomplishments this year. And we congratulate you on earning a state championship. Very well-deserved recognition should be coming your way. And I just wanted to let you know this is a topic on our agenda further on, so we will reserve discussion for that time. But if there's any comments from other board members that you feel the need to make now, please go ahead. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone speak up?
I'd just like to say congratulations, Chloe, to you and your teammates. Outstanding effort, outstanding achievement. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Okay, our third public comment is also a letter form, so I apologize to you guys having to listen to me read. This letter was submitted by Isabella Nanowski, the team manager for the PHS varsity girls basketball team. Dear Superintendent Halliday and Philomath School Board, I am writing on behalf of myself and the Philomath girls basketball team. I would like to take some time to discuss the mask protocols in place in the Philomath School District as it pertains to sports. We are aware that currently the Philomath School District is still implementing a full-blown mask mandate. However, what I would argue to you is that the current guidance does not support this stance. As you are aware, Benton County has had the highest vaccination rate in the state, and it is currently maintaining that status as of 6/15/21 with a rate of 63.3% per Oregon Health Authority. Governor Kate Brown has set a statewide benchmark for 70% of adults having received the first dose of the vaccination to be able to lift most restrictions. The state is rapidly approaching Brown's benchmark to lift most restrictions. Currently, the state as a whole, according to Brown, is 2.1% away from reaching our 70% statewide vaccination goal. Under the current guidance from OSAA on May 19th, 2021, it states indoor sports, fully vaccinated students, staff, volunteers, and spectators are not required to wear face coverings at indoor sports events, only when vaccination status is checked by the school in a manner described by OHA in guidance. Furthermore, OHA released a memo on May 18th regarding statewide reopening guidance. Masks, face coverings, face shields, which explicitly states that this guidance does apply to K through 12 sports. Statewide masks, face coverings, or face shields are required to be worn by all individuals at all times unless the individual is fully vaccinated. The CDC director also said anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large and small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. We understand that other schools are currently following the guidelines that allow them to play without masks, as well as officials overseeing our games. We feel that we are at a physical and psychological disadvantage when wearing the masks. While we understand the guidance states that it is safe to play while masked, it does not change what it actually feels like to push your body physically while masked. The last year has been difficult for most of us with a loss of any sense of normalcy. We wrapped up our basketball season last year, losing our opportunity to play in the state tournament after we had worked tirelessly to get there. We want to finish what we were not able to finish last year and bring a state championship home to Philomath. We would like to be able to do this at the top of our physical capabilities. On the basketball team, we strive to always support inclusive and to always be supportive, inclusive, and unified. So while all players are not vaccinated, we all support our fully vaccinated players being unmasked. What we are asking for is that all athletes playing on the court that are fully vaccinated and can show proof of vaccination be allowed to play unmasked. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Isabella Nanoski on behalf of the Philomath High School girls basketball team and supporters, of which there are many signatures attached to this letter. So I would like to just propose that perhaps we include discussion on this matter as well later on in the agenda when
It will be included in the superintendent's report.
perfect, thank you. Okay. So we'll move on to, okay, so at this point in time, we need to address our budget. So to do so properly, we need to close out of this regular session and then open our budget hearing for discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the regular session at 7:15 p.m. and move to open the 21-22 budget hearing. So Bill, if I do anything wrong, please speak up.
So far, so good.
Okay, so as all of you know, the budget committee, or all of the board members know, the budget committee met on May 24th and approved a proposed budget that's in our packet for adoption by the board. And so, Bill, if I could invite you at this time to comment on any important considerations, such as the latest on state school funding, that would be appreciated.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. According to budget law, there's a requirement by June 30th for the board of directors to adopt the budget for the following year in order for us to start spending money on July 1st. So as you mentioned, Shelley, the budget committee met a couple of times, and on May 24th, they adopted a budget that totaled $42 million roughly. The only change that was made from the first meeting of the committee to the second was the increased funding that the legislature provided K-12 education, going from $9.1 billion in funding to $9.3 billion in funding, which was roughly $250,000 more to the district. So nothing at this point has changed since that last budget committee meeting. The legislature is finalizing the $9.3 billion funding. Could there be more down the road? The legislature is still working on that. So at this point, there are no other changes to report. And there was no public comment given up to this point. So what the actions are, there are two resolutions that when we close the budget session and reopen the regular board meeting, that will be on your agenda to approve, which adopts the budget and adopts the tax rates that I would send off to both counties for property taxes.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Are there any questions for Bill before we close out of the budget hearing and then move back into regular session for motion to adopt the budget? Okay, with no further discussion, I'm going to go ahead and close the budget hearing. And I will officially reopen the regular session at 7:18 and ask for that action be taken. I think we'll do it, I guess, maybe separately. First, a resolution to adopt the 21-22 budget.
I move that we approve resolution number 2021-07, adopting the budget and making appropriations as presented in our packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any disapprove? Great. Okay. Budget passed. And now we need to take action on imposing and categorizing the tax, resolution 21-08. If someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-08, imposing and categorizing the tax as presented in our packets.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Bill. Reports and correspondence. So do we have anyone from PEA that is going to give a report this evening? How about OSEA? Okay. And any student government report? No, they're out of school now, so I would expect probably not. Okay, so no association or student government reports this evening. That leads us to the superintendent report, Superintendent Halliday.
That was quick.
Yeah.
I will. Share a screen here of some things and give you some general information. Again, it's the opportunity first and foremost to take care of our board members and to acknowledge, as Shelley had done earlier, our newest board members who will be formally joining us in July, and that's Joe Daly and Aaron Gudge and Rick Wells. And Rick, he just couldn't stay away from us. So back we are again, which is awesome. And they will be joining our two continuing board members in Anton Grube and Karen Skinkus. that means that we can't have 8 board members. And so there are 3 that are running away or something like that, taking care of other business that needs to be taken care of. Family is a lot of it from what I've heard. So, and I can appreciate that very, very much, in family being the first thing you get. And so if we were in person, which we will be for the work session on Wednesday evening, we have for our outgoing board members, Greg Girding, Jim Kilday, and Shelley Neiman, we will be in thanks to your service. We have had when I say we, I mean Lillian, because she takes care of everything. The plaques put together in the symbol of the state of Oregon that say, with gratitude and appreciation, Greg Girding, Jim Kilday, Shelley Neiman, they each have an individual one. Thank you for your years of dedicated service as a member of the Philomath School District Board of Directors. Your commitment to students and staff will have a lasting impact on the Philomath community. And so I want to tell you how much I have appreciated your support in this year, in helping me do the work that I need to do. And it's quite a commitment to be a member of a school board and being able to make decisions and advocate for the whole of your district and your community. And I just truly appreciate the work that gets put in by this group, because it's more than just a once a month meeting, and there's lots of things that come through. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome our new members and also wish our outgoing members the very best in the ventures that you have to come in your life. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We had a meeting with our incoming board members, Lillian Edmonds and Bill Mancuso and myself, and it was a great Friday afternoon just to be able to catch up and do some what is this school board thing. So I put in the packet some of the information that we talked about of some upcoming virtual sessions put on by the Oregon School Boards Association. One of those coming up being School Board Essentials. They also have 3 other sessions: Empowering Youth Voices. The board leadership and administrative professionals is something that Lillian had attended, and really clear information. And the other is about raising the equity question, just some things that OSBA is doing that we put out there. So if any of the board members are interested in participating, please let Lillian know, and we can get people signed up and have some opportunity to do some learning with the Oregon School Boards Association. We're not done with Ready Schools Safe Learners yet, so I have that section put in there. I mentioned in the second bullet that our final guidance is scheduled to come out July 22nd. This week is the Administrators Conference in Seaside. Our leadership group has chosen to stay here and take care of some business that we need to get done before heading away for July and getting some respite for our administrators. And so there will be a session that will be shared via Zoom for anybody. And I just found this out, administrators, so you're getting it firsthand, that on Thursday afternoon, to be able to hear some of the things that they know right now in terms of our anticipated opening for 21-22. There will be holes in it just because we don't know all that there is to know, but it will be a step in being able to provide some possible guidance to be able to help us out. I continue to put the metrics in so that you can see we continue to be in a low test positivity that's continued to be down for the last, 4 2-week periods in that 2% or lower, which is very good for us. And so when we hear a letter like from Isabella that says, here's where we are, we have some information to be able to look at. This is the culminating week for showcase events for our winter sports. So basketball, swimming, and wrestling are all in their culminating week. We'll tell you that the 4A league is the one, and Tony may tell you more about, Mr. Mata may tell you more about this later, that the 4A league is the one that came up with the showcase idea. Other levels of the leagues have been just extending numbers of games. And so 4A has been kind of unique in what it's been offering as showcase opportunities for students to be involved in. So we're very fortunate to be a part of that group, and pretty fortunate to have folks like Mr. Mata advocating to be able to make sure that there's something that ratchets up a level of play. To answer Isabella's information, one of the things that we put out there from the beginning in making our decisions about basketball was the information does say that if there's proof of vaccine, that students do not need to wear masks. However, it also says that school districts may follow school district protocol and make that decision based on Ready Schools Safe Learners, as opposed to the Oregon Health Authority and the OSAA. So there's that piece that's put in there. One of the reasons that I've stayed with the mask covering, face covering requirement has really been about unity as a team, because not everybody falls into that category. So we could be consistent as a team. What we heard loud and clear today from the information that I've not heard until now has been that all players, or a multitude of players, both younger and older, have weighed in on their desire to be able to support those who do not have to wear face coverings. So the girls' basketball game that is scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, will follow only OSAA protocols for players. We will remove the Ready Schools Safe Learners component of that. So it says that players and officials meeting the CDC requirements for vaccination will not be required to wear face coverings during their time on the court. Face coverings will be required by players when on the bench. Because school is out, we're taking the Ready Schools Safe Learners off the table in that decision and leaning to OSAA. Now, when it comes to being able to go to, as we hope we advance, after Tuesday, the face covering requirements are up to the discretion of the facility where games are being played. So if that facility requires face coverings, we will be held to that requirement. If not, same thing. We will be held to whatever requirement comes up from that particular facility. So when it says face covering requirements for the additional high school games, are at the discretion of the host facility. So hopefully that answers the question in being heard that some of our younger players and folks who may not have been through vaccine protocol or chose not to, which all is fine, will be able to operate without masks tomorrow. So.
Can I just ask a quick question right there?
Yep.
What is the current policy for spectators at an indoor sporting event?
Same thing. It's if we've got proof of vaccination, no face covering required. The other thing is we can set up sections for which one is a vaccinated section and another is a not. Children who are with families of non-vaccinated, children who are with families of vaccinated adults may sit with the adults whether they've been vaccinated or not. That's what I know.
And I'm sorry, Susan, what you just stated is currently what we're doing in our district, though that may not necessarily be the case in other districts and other facilities. Is that correct?
It's all across the board, because there are some that are saying we're not going there to be able to check face covering guidance and making sure people are CDC compliant by checking their cards on the way in the door. And that would be the other thing. The other thing we could do is require that everybody wears them. And that has met with about zero success in many, many instances.
Thanks.
End of year successes. We had graduation ceremonies, both without the rain, at Philomath High School with 123 candidates, and that included those students enrolled in the Philomath Academy. This year was all receiving Philomath High School diplomas. Next year they will be designated Philomath Academy and Philomath High School, but the Philomath Academy kids in this year are assumed in that 123 count. And Kings Valley Charter School graduated 10 students on the following Saturday when I drove out to Kings Valley in the rain, and it was the most beautiful sunny experience you could imagine for the hour of the graduation ceremony. So it was pretty perfect. For end of the year, we wanted to do some things for our staff, but we didn't want to contrive things and felt like a full district in-service activity like we've done before with a barbecue or something like that would just be too much this year for people. So what we did instead was we opened up a resource that we would have spent for a district gathering to be able to allow for schools to celebrate in their own locations. And it has been met with, or was met with a lot of appreciation for people saying once students left on Thursday, they could enjoy lunch and a little get together before getting back to their classrooms without feeling a need to be able to stretch yet one more way. So again, it was a way of trying to acknowledge everybody's being tired and being able to take care of things. We also met with a great deal of success and appreciation as we added the COVID-19 dashboard to our website that would, thanks to our nurses, Tina Ho and Lori Haslam, to update that every week to be able to talk about cases that we'd had within our schools. And so if that needs to continue, we will continue that on into next year. As we look to 21-22, we're really looking at not having formal full guidance available until mid-July. What we're doing as a leadership team is meeting tomorrow and being able to make sure our schedules are put together as, I call it normal, and then to be able to create a plan B. And that plan B will really be if we have to have any kind of a physical distancing requirement, what do we need to do to be able to make sure that we can move students to accommodate that to a different class period, and how are we set up with teachers? So our plan is to be able to have those two scenarios before we leave and put them on the shelf and come back August 2nd and decide what it is we're going to implement, or if we need to implement anything other than plan A. That is our hope, but we want to be as prepared as we can be. So we'll share our final schedules with families in early August. The students wishing to return to in-person in our classrooms can return to their specific school, and students wishing to participate in online instruction or to continue in that mode will be enrolled at the Philomath Academy. We're looking at, like we did with our Philomath teachers, if we need to be able to fill in that way. For instance, at our elementary levels, we had 3 classrooms that were in person and 1 that was a distance learning classroom. If we need to look at something like that again, we will, but it will all route through the Philomath Academy for next year for some ease of consistency and space availability and things like that. We're going to put out a survey to families by the end of this week to request information about current plans for their children this fall. Basically saying, knowing what you know now, will you return your child to in-person learning at their school, or will you stay with a distance learning protocol? It's not going to be a hold anybody to, you have to do what you said, but it's really to try and get an idea so that we can plan accordingly as we staff. At this time, the things that we don't know, we know that the desire is to get students back as close to what we'd call normal as possible. We don't have answers at this point about the status of face coverings, about physical distancing, or about cohort groups. And so some of those things, when we talk about normal, we just need to know that there may still be some caveat in these areas that we're going to have to pay attention to. We just don't know that yet. And so we'll do our best to be able to stay on top of what that looks like and what that means. Our district calendar for 21-22 is available, and that school is scheduled to start for students on Tuesday, September 7th. The weekly early release days are going to move back to Friday. This year we put them on Mondays. They're going to go back to the regular just afternoon release, and students will go home a little early on Fridays. So we won't have the full day on Monday to be able to do that. Also wanted to list out some of our current licensed openings that are still in the mix, and some current classified openings that we have out there, to be able to acknowledge some things that we are still interviewing for. I would like to pause for a moment to be able to say one of the things that we are hiring is a special education administrator, which I know that Krista McGuire was on the line, and she has been sometime with us and sometime with Albany over the last month or two, and would just like to publicly take the opportunity to wish her well in her new venture, and thank her for all that she's done for us. So this is the replacement component, but we really appreciate Krista and need to acknowledge that. COVID vaccination clinics, and I hear a lot about supporting clinics. Our partners, Benton County Health, are just looking for places for people who want the vaccine. And so what we've done is set up with our partner, the Philomath High School parking lot, for a mobile clinic that will be a Pfizer clinic, with a first dose July 6th and a second dose July 27th. The Pfizer vaccine is for anyone 12 and older. And just a reminder to parents that students aged 15 and older do not need parental permission to receive the vaccine according to the health authority. So please remember to talk as a family about your choices and your preferences, knowing that that's the situation in the rule. We've got Dr. Johnson on the agenda in a little bit to talk about summer session and some updates. And Student Success Act, we're rolling out to be able to get moving on our hiring for people. So we are, it's a busy place for the end of June. So that's our report, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions from board members? Okay, thanks for the update. Appreciate it. Okay, on to the Director of Finance report. Bill, back to you.
Back. Again, thank you for all your efforts, those of you who are leaving the board. 4 years seems to have gone by really quickly, and welcome to the new board members who will be joining us. Looking forward to the future and what's in store for us. As far as the financials, we're getting very close to the end of the fiscal year, which happens next week. And in fact, we have our auditors coming in tomorrow for their initial work on the audit for the period ending June 30th. So it just budget ends and audit starts. So it's just a nice revolving cycle. As you can see by the report that was in your packet, our enrollment really hasn't changed much from last month. So, which is probably par for the course. If you remember back a few months ago, we hit a point where we had 100 students less than what we would normally expect for students who went to homeschooling or other charter schools. And as of the end of May, we're down by 72. So some of the students came back when we started in-person instruction, and some just probably were just going to ride out the rest of the year. What that holds for the fall, we don't know. We're hoping that all those students return, plus the new ones with all the construction going on. So we're going to end the fiscal year in fairly good shape, given all the situations that we've had to deal with. Probably pretty close to what we had budgeted originally on, because there was some savings, but the bulk of our expenditures are in salaries and benefits, and everybody, we didn't furlough anybody or lay anybody off, so we still had those expenses. Revenues were a little bit lower than expected this year for a number of reasons. One, some property tax payments did not come in. Times are tough, so we're unable to collect all those right now. Obviously, our pay-to-play fees were a lot lower than we thought, and interest income on our reserves is lower because the interest rate dropped during the course of the year compared to what was budgeted. So a lot of things have happened. We'll be in fairly good shape going into the next school year. We've got some funding sources for certain things related to COVID. Summer learning grants are kicking in. So we're excited and hopeful that 21-22 gets off to what we would call a normal start, and we're excited for it. So open to any questions that you guys may have.
Do we have any indication what the enrollment might be for incoming kindergartners next year? Because my understanding was that our preschools were full with waiting lists.
Abby's already pointed out to me that they are, I think last was they were at like 73 already, and 80 is their magic number. I mean, in terms of starting to take a look at, do we need another staff person? And so Abby has put us on notice in a good way that we just need to be watching those kinder numbers because they could come in much higher than we had anticipated.
Yeah. Okay.
That seems like it's unusually high for this time of the year. I mean, it seems like we don't get those numbers till like mid to late August or something. Is that true?
Yeah, so the word that's out that there is an overabundance of kindergarten students around the state is turning out to be true for us. So yeah, we're trying to stay on top of it.
I also think, Jim, one of the other things that may cause, and I don't know this for any certainty, but there were a lot of families who had kindergarten students this year, and given the pandemic, just decided not to send them.
Mhm.
So I think statewide, you'll see a number of new kindergarten students that probably would have been in kindergarten this year.
They may have just delayed a year or something just because of all the madness going on. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Any other questions on financial reports? Okay, Bill, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to strategy and discussion. First topic is the girls tennis 4A showcase championship. I'd like to invite Tony Mata and Gary Kwon. Looks like you're both here.
Thank you, Shelley. We have followed the steps we normally do in recognizing outstanding seasons for teams, and continuing that in recognizing them at the next school board meeting. We've recognized the girls tennis team for their regional championship and their 4A showcase championship in an assembly at school on May 26th. Not a normal assembly as we couldn't have it inside, so outside at the stadium. The girls had an outstanding season. We'll raise the first regional tennis championship in girls history. We'll put that banner up. It was ordered the Monday after the regional. Takes a few months for it to come in, so hopefully it'll be up before school starts in the fall. But I'd like to turn it over to Coach Gary Quant to talk about the season.
Yeah, first of all, I just would like to address a little bit what Chloe said earlier in the meeting. From an administration standpoint, as a coaching standpoint support, because I do the boys and the girls, I cannot speak to her favoritism for girls. As a coach who does both teams, Tony and Buzz have been more than supportive to both. Obviously, I'm not on staff, so I don't see the day-to-day interactions. All I know is what I see when I show up on the court and stuff. So I guess that's my take on what Chloe said there as far as that goes. But I'd like to thank the board for their support over the last few years getting our courts built. That was a huge factor in getting the higher skill level we're getting right now. I know the kids were using the courts during the last year's COVID year. We didn't have a spring season. Every time I go by there, there's general public using the court. So I think they're getting used a lot for Philomath, and being the only public courts in town. Obviously, your guys' support a couple of years ago made that happen. So The team itself, obviously, the girls, like Tony said, was the first district champion we've had, and obviously first state championship we've had. They were actually co-champions with Marist High School. The boys had a good year, finishing third at state as well at the 4A showcase. Hopefully we can keep that going. The thing that I'd like to see, I'm going to throw out there too, is I'd like to see in the curriculum in the middle school and the high school now in the fall, assuming COVID allows you to do that. Obviously, tennis is a neat sport to do that because you're outside. Masks aren't as prevalent out there. Actually, during the season, we dropped most of the mask mandate for the players while they're on the court, being outdoors. But I'd like to see tennis being more involved in the curriculum in the middle school and the high school, because that's just going to make our programs that much stronger. And maybe next summer, maybe with help with PYAC, starting some kind of summer program out there. That would be a great way to help build the program. So, that's kind of where I hope it's headed, and I'll do whatever I can to help with that and push that along. So thanks for your support. And, we had a great season. So even though it was a slow season, or 6-week season rather than 12-week, but I was proud of what the kids did and proud of what we built over the last 10 years out there. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, and congratulations, Coach Quant, on both your team's successes. Are there any questions for Tony or Gary? No. So I do have a question for you, Tony. Did we check with other schools around the state as to how they were handling their version of the state championships at perhaps other levels, 5A, 3A, so forth?
Yeah. Well, so the 4A really was we were the leaders in culminating week events, in showcases is what the 4A was calling them. Nobody else was doing those in season 1, season 2, which was the fall sports. As we got into season 3, which were spring sports, we saw a little bit of the smaller classifications doing some culminating week tournament style stuff following the 4A. Now that we're into season 4, which is our winter sports, there are both the 5A, the 6A, and the smaller classifications trying to put together some sort of culminating week tournaments, instead of just saying, hey, you get an extra week, play 3 more games kind of thing. At the 4A level, they're right now, so the OSA said from the start, that they are the governing body of high school sports in the state of Oregon. And all along over the last 20 years, they've said, you get us your qualifiers, we run your state tournament events. They said beginning of this year, there are not going to be any state tournaments, truncated seasons. You're cramming 3 seasons into basically a season and a half's worth of time. But we're going to have, a culminating week. And then right before the first culminating week in season 2, they say, well, let you guys figure out what you want to do with that culminating week, and stay completely out of it. At the July executive board meeting with the OSA, the 4A is going to make an appeal to the OSA to recognize and archive the champions from the culminating weeks, from the showcases. And one of the things that's interesting is, like, there are some of those sports that were fairly true to what they might have looked like in a normal year. I mean, a few less participants and stuff across the board, but not entire schools not participating like you saw in some activities. But let's say, for example, if you ran the fastest 100-meter time in the state's history, the OSA has currently said that's not going to be in their archives. So Chris Johnson is leading the charge. He's the athletic director in Siuslaw. He's also a big track and field guy, to just get the OSA to recognize what the 4A did. And it was unique, really. That wasn't, the 5A wasn't doing it, the 6A wasn't doing it, the 3A wasn't doing it, but taking that at their executive meeting in July and asking them to revisit that. They pulled 4A athletic directors, and so we have a pretty good sense of what schools want, and really, some schools are saying, when the OSA, like we have told them, if the OSA says, all right, we're going to recognize those, well, they're the governing body and they tell us who the state champions are. So let's go. Right. If we can get them to say, yeah, we're going to recognize, those showcase champions as state champions, that really takes care of, for, in my mind, almost everything except for football. Football was a unique animal at the 4A level with just a committee picking, hey, you're the number one team, you're going to go play each other instead of there being a bracket. So we hope that, that the OSA considers that, and takes some deep thought into that. But they ultimately are the organization in charge of putting on championship events and crowning state champions.
So is there something like letters of support that the board could offer to support your efforts?
Absolutely. I'll talk to Chris tomorrow. I just had a conversation with him the other day to see where we were at in the process. And so let me talk to him and see where if you want you to send those directly to the executive board, or if they need to go to him and he'll take them when he makes the presentation.
That'd be great. I think I'm pretty sure I speak for all of us in that we would gladly do that, and would like to do whatever we can to support that effort. And then my follow-on question to that would be, so should they not end up supporting that effort, it seems like at a building level and a school level that we need to come up with a decision on how to recognize these teams' successes and our student athletes. And I know currently all the banners in there are sponsored by or recognized by OSAA, but it just seems like there's a way that we could still recognize them with a state championship banner, whether it be a banner of a different version or say something slightly different. I'm not sure, but it would be very much appreciated if that was looked into, received feedback from the athletes and the coaches as to how we could follow through with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it my understanding that a banner has been ordered? Is that what you said, like a week after?
The regional, which was the first regional championship in the girls' tennis history. The boys' first was just a couple years ago, correct, Gary?
Yeah, we've had 3 since then.
Yeah,
Or 2.
and so the regional was a true regional. Every team that was eligible to participated. Now, some teams had lower numbers than they might have had in a normal year, but it followed the same process with a Monday at Black Butte or at Madras, and then a Thursday, Friday at Black Butte. It was my first ever experience with tennis, and I told the kids on day one, I said, hey, I'm gonna screw some things up because I haven't done this before, but we're gonna get it right, and in the long run, and make sure that the event runs as smoothly as it can. For me, it was interesting. The last day, with a little bit of tennis left, it started raining. We packed everything up. I awarded some medals there, so it was a bit of a zoo for kids who weren't going to go with us to Cascade to finish the tournament at Cascade High School. So we drove from Black Butte to Cascade, got out of our cars, and played some more tennis. So it was a bit of a jumbled mess. And Chloe's right. I did miss actually one of our groups and a male singles player from Cascade that in the chaos of the whole thing had to track him down. Hey, hold on, I forgot to mention you and award them their medals. But it was overall we had pretty positive feedback, and and we just want to continue to make that a better event each year. And obviously it'll get year one for me, I don't know how many for Gary. A lot. So I relied on his expertise quite a bit. I thought the coaches were great to work with overall, so hope to just continue to do it and do it better each time.
And I'd just like to say thanks to Tony, because he did really a good job, especially for first year. He had heard so many negative things about the tennis coaches, and he handled them very well and massaged them very well. So thanks, Tony, for all that you did.
Well, you're welcome. It was great. I had fun.
Got Amanda out of the office too.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Anton. Sorry.
Just a quick question about the showcases and 4A and kind of you were saying there was a survey, and I know there's, a variety of sports and a variety of showcases. Is it your, I guess, opinion, or is there a consensus among 4A athletic directors that they support the showcase model?
I think they support the showcase. The question is, do you feel like, should we push the OSA to recognize those? And I don't think I think it's a majority that are on the yes side of that. I know in talking to the Marist AD, communicating with the Marist AD, because we tied those guys in the girls showcase and they won the boys tennis showcase. They're waiting to see what the OSA does.
Okay,
I know that some schools are saying we don't care what the OSA does. And so I think it's important what the OSA does. I think it helps set a precedent that it's a crazy year, but to recognize, especially spring sport kids, and that's the one thing all along. I think a lot of us have said, if we only get to play one season, it should be the spring, because they lost the whole spring last year. And, there are some sports like tennis and swimming that are unique in the fact that they typically in a normal year, it's 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A schools all lumped together. And the 4A showcase, didn't have any of those 3A, 2A, 1A schools involved in it. And some of those schools in both, swimming and in tennis are pretty good, so they weren't invited to participate because it was just the 4A taking care of the 4A.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I know I said it back in it wasn't a fall season, but whatever the fall sports, whenever that was, February or whatever, that I appreciated the efforts that were put forth to have some type of showcase. I'll use that term because that's a term used that felt like a bracket that was more akin to what's typical. And what I might offer for consideration, and certainly I haven't thought through all the ramifications if OSA doesn't acknowledge those as championships, is whether or not there's an opportunity to put up banners that use the language of showcase, to the student athletes, to Ms. Jerva, that COVID took a lot of things from a lot of folks, and this was one piece that they had no control of, but the control they had was to go to the highest level. And as a coach of a former coach of a state championship team, I think we're all going to remember, even if we look up at those banners 20, 30, 40 years from now, and it says showcase, that, oh yeah, that was COVID. I don't think any of us are going to forget, but that might be an opportunity. I can understand there's complications if we have a team that wins that has already won a state championship, and how do you do that? So I'm not saying that's the be all or end all, but that might be a consideration that acknowledges OSA's position, but perhaps also our the local efforts of our student athletes. So just something for consideration.
Thank you, Anton. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay, yeah, Tony, if you could get that information to those of us that are short timers, at least here, maybe by the end of this week, so we could get our letters submitted.
I'll get a hold of Chris tomorrow and get it out. If not by tomorrow afternoon, certainly, this track of the day, certainly before the end of the week.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Okay, well, move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the Clemens Primary School data update. Hi, Abby.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you. I am super excited to share some data with you tonight about what we have been doing here at Clemens Primary School. So I am going to, give me a second. I gotta share my screen. All right, are you guys seeing the Clemens Primary School PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. So that was a beautiful picture of Clemens Primary School. And I'm going to take you on a little trip through the year. If you think back to the beginning of the school year, August, February, we were planning at that time to come back at least just for the K1, because at that time with COVID, we could come back at that time. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and so we went into comprehensive distance learning, and we were super thankful that we had purchased the program called Seesaw, because we could do online learning through that platform. And the kids and the parents, it was a really great way to interact with everybody. So we were completely online using Seesaw. And then the teachers also put together weekly packets so that all of the lessons that we were creating and expecting students to do at home, they also had the hands-on practice with our weekly packets. So over the course of the year, our copy costs for all the copies that we have made definitely went up, but I think overall you'll see it benefited our students in the long run. Then in February and April, we transitioned to hybrid learning, and that meant that our students that wanted to come in person came 2 days a week. And for the other 3 days, they were at home still continuing to do Seesaw and do the packets that we had done. So teachers then had to transition and start doing 2 separate things about teaching in person and then also planning for the kids that are at home. They'd have half their class at a time. And then thankfully, May, June, we came back to fully in person, and we were super thrilled to have all of the kids back in the building. Watching them interact was really special. That's why we do what we do, because we love hearing the kids' voices in the hallway. So in a year where we had this incredible transition, and everybody's had it hard all year, we still did some really wonderful things here. So I wanted to show some data. So here is our kindergarten reading data. In the fall, we had 46% of our students that in the green zone down here that were at grade level coming in when we assessed them. 54% of them were slightly below grade level. And then here in the red, you'll see there's not a percentage, and there will be when we come in the winter. But because it was a COVID year, the EasyCBM data had decided that we were going to not count the kindergarten students that were significantly below grade level, because they figured most kids would be coming in. So we didn't have that data. But then we get to the winter term. Remember, this is when we've been doing only online learning when we assess these kids. So we jumped from the beginning of the year to 71% at the mid-level of the year. 22% were slightly below. And then at that time, we had 7% of our students that were significantly below grade level. Then we just implemented hybrid, and we did in person. And so when we assessed our kids last week, I think we finished assessing. Look at our data now. I'm so excited. So 80% of our kids at grade level, 14% slightly below, and 6% that are significantly below. And when we look at this data and we talk about our response to instruction and intervention, this is right where they want us to be with percentages. This is the exceptional in the state of Oregon for percentages at each in each category. So then you look at first grade data. And in first grade in the fall, this is information that you would look back and think these were last year's kindergarten. So in the spring, this is when the kids went into comprehensive distance learning. We did not have Seesaw at this time. We were only doing packets. We were scrambling to get any kind of learning for our students. So when these kids came into first grade and we assessed them right away, we had 34% of our kids that were at grade level. 53 were below grade level, and 13% were significantly below grade level. Then in the winter, we had them on Seesaw, and they started to make some progress. So they got up to 49% that are at grade level, 41 slightly below, and now 10% that are significantly below. And then in the spring, we are here. So huge jumps. 61% are at grade level. That's still not where we would like to see them, but that is still huge for a COVID year. And looking back at the 34% to where we started, that's a huge jump. And I'm so proud to share this information because our teachers worked really hard. So I wanted to show what we did and why I think that we were successful. This is an example. Each time, I know I'm just going to explain it. It's hard to read on this slide, but this is a week, and every time we went into a different learning model, whether it be comprehensive distance learning or hybrid or in person, we met as a team and we determined by grade level what we thought were the most important things that our students needed in order to be successful. So everything is listed there. This is the hybrid model plan. And so when the kids were in person, we had certain things that they had to get when they were here. And then when they were home, they had certain things that we knew they could do at home. We communicated that with parents and we used the Seesaw platform. So our partnership with the parents was way more outstanding than it has ever been. And Seesaw was a big part of that. So I have to give huge kudos not only to our teachers for making this plan, but to the parents who implemented this while the kids were at home, 3 out of the 5 days a week. It was a lot to do, but it helped in partnering with them. And then also we have our preschool. So I put together some data so you could look at how important it is for our students to have preschool and what they come into kindergarten with. And this is another reason why our students are being so successful. So down here at the bottom, you'll see enrollment totals. And I have 13 is how many students of that year actually came to the Philomath School District. Total enrollment for that year was 18, but only 13 of those students came to Philomath. And then when you go up here, we had 17 students enrolled in the preschool program, but only 15 of them actually came to Clemens Primary School. And then the numbers continue to grow as you go across the years. So when you look at the 16-17 year, we had the data showing that 92% of the kids that came are at grade level, at or above grade level. That's huge, and 0 kids are in the red. When we had the 17-18 year, slightly different numbers, but still significant. These kids are coming in at or above grade level, which really helps their pre-reading and their math all the way through, with our district goal being that we want the kids reading by 3rd grade. We are now in a position as a district to really hit that goal, hit that target. So it's really exciting to see the data as we go, and preschool is a big part of it. You'll notice this year, the data doesn't look as good. I was talking to Sunny Bennett, our current preschool teacher, and it was pretty funny because this year I put the kids in a very small classroom and they did 2 separate sessions, and having the kids that close together is possibly why data that year wasn't so great. But we moved them to a bigger classroom the next year, and look, we're back up in a really good space. So these kids are the kids that are our current kindergarten students. So when they came in this fall, this is where they were at, and that trajectory continued as we did comprehensive distance learning. So it's pretty exciting to see that across the board, what we're doing is successful. There's still places that we can fill gaps, but overall, it's pretty significantly awesome. I heard you guys talking about kindergarten enrollment, so I took my little surprise because I was excited to tell you that we have 73 kindergartners enrolled. That is pretty darn good for this time of the school year. It could be, I'm always optimistic. I always put this, I think every year that I've been principal here, I always put it out there. We may need to think about just on the radar, and we haven't had to, but so we'll watch these numbers carefully, and we will, we have 73 right now, which is really good. And we'll have a better idea in August. And then also in 1st grade, we have our kids coming back, and then we already have 6 new enrollments of students that are new to us for next year that are enrolled. So we have 85 projected for next year for 1st grade. So numbers are looking pretty good at the primary school, and they will continue to do so. And I hope that you'll join me in congratulating both our teachers here at Clemens and also the parents, because that was a whopper of a year, but that's very successful. So I'm really proud of all the work that they've done. And that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions?
Abby, I have a quick question. Were we able to do some of the, I forget the acronym, but kind of when a student is behind and you give them additional individual support?
RTI?
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep, RTI, all that
Yes.
stuff. So we're able to do that this year, or did COVID prevent that?
Yes, we did. And I have to give kudos also to Miss Kaylin Coleman and Miss Molly Bell, who absolutely were amazing. So they actually got to present to the Oregon RTI people and other school districts because of the awesome work that they did this school year. It was really exciting to see. They assessed the kids. We were able to do our small groups. We did small groups and interventions when we were distance learning. And then when we brought the kids in, they got them during hybrid. And then once they came back full time, they got the intervention every day. So we were able to continue that, which was really exciting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, an outstanding work. I mean, it was great presentation, great effort, and thanks to you and your staff and all the teachers for all the great work, because that's just really impressive. And two, thanks for recognition of the parents, because I know I know everyone was pitching in this past year, so thank you very much. I love hearing stuff like that. That was excellent.
Good, thanks, Jim.
I just want to echo what Jim said. Abby, congratulations, outstanding job, and congrats to you, your staff, your teachers, and the parents involved. Just a superb job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with all of what's been said already. And in addition, Abby, your enthusiasm is so contagious. It is just, it makes me excited about these numbers. I mean, obviously I'm excited, but I mean, like, yes, yeah, it's catching. Thank you.
You're welcome. It is something to be excited about, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Abby, for your presentation, and congratulations to you, your staff, your students, and parents on a successful, very challenging year. So thank you very much for taking the time to share that with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks, Shelley.
Go Cubs.
Yeah, right. With a whole new meaning. Okay, we'll move on then to PES data update. Brian, I see you there.
Yeah, hi folks. Hi, I'm trying
Hi.
to share my screen with you. See if can you see the?
We can, yes,
Well,
thank
great, great. Yeah, there's some saying in show business or whatever that you never follow, the top act, to come on stage after the top act. So I got to learn to get in front of Abby when these presentations come up. It's hard to outshine her. I'm nothing but impressed with her efforts and her team and her enthusiasm. But I'll tell you what, our Philomath Falcons here, we're working hard. Our results don't necessarily shine quite as brightly, but it's not from lack of effort. And surely we know we've seen lots of student growth. I commented today, we had an interview, and one of the candidates asked us about, what do we like about working in Philomath? And great responses from great community, great teachers, great colleagues. And my response and my perception of this 1 year here is, it's a school where kids run into the building and walk out of the building, meaning they're excited to come to school and they don't, they're not really thrilled about it when it's over. And that's a sign of a great school and a great district when kids want to be here. And that's what I see about PES, BES, and I'm sure it's true down there at CPS. So I'm trying to see if did I progress the slide? Yeah, there we go. So our EasyCBM data demonstrated a little bit differently. The white is essentially our green, so it's reversed from what Abby was showing you. I'm not going to go through the calendar as she did because ours is identical to CPS's, so you don't need to hear that a second time. But our second graders coming in and through the year, you can see are pretty flat. We did see growth at the green zone from 47 to 53, not significant. A small reduction in the at risk or the yellow zone. but flat in the red zone. So that's a flag for us. And I know Molly and the team put a lot of effort into supporting our second grade students. I'm not going to make an excuse. These kids did experience a hunk of their first grade year and then a transition to a new school and never setting foot in it for 6 months or 7 months. So I think second graders may have had a greater impact than other grades, certainly. We move on to the third grade kids. Oh, by the way, and looking at that cohort data, even though it was small numbers, I think these kids were like 80% green as preschoolers. But again, that was 18 kids versus 80 kids. So it's a little not quite consistent. Second grade, the most positive thing here is the red zone staying small and actually reducing to 5%, those more at-risk kids. The yellow and green, obviously 95%. We'd like to see that green 50% be a higher number. The perfect model, I think Abby hit it at one of her grades, 80, 15, 5, if you were to have kind of perfect percentages in those various zones or less, in the red and yellow. But we've got some work here cut out for us as we head into the next school year. Fourth grade, we see a good trend there. I mean, looks like academically, this is a pretty solid cohort. I didn't get a chance to look back at their data in prior years, but I suspect they probably have been academically a strong cohort as they move through the system. 73% green at the end of the year, and then just 5% in the at-risk category. And then fifth grade kind of had a reverse trend. And part of the explanation for this, and I believe it may have been other grades as well, but I know Molly specifically pointed out that the fall and winter was just a fluency assessment. The spring was a fluency and a vocabulary assessment. So the double data point affected the results. So it's not really quite apples to apples as you look across the grid there. But positives, again, are the lower at-risk kids, those kids in the yellow zone. They're, as one of you asked, all of those students are getting additional academic literacy support. And we expect to see the green zones grow and the yellow zones shrink. And that second grade group, again, will be a real focus for us next year. Decided to share end of year math data. We didn't really put any extra emphasis through RTI in math. It's really at the grade level and at the grade level teams, but it's a much more positive reflection here. We actually have 4 zones. The highest level exceeds, and then the white is essentially the green. So combine those two for groups that meet. Again, the most significant thing is you look at the at-risk groups across the board. Again, second grade is high, but we have some low at-risk numbers, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Very positive sign as we head into next year. Clearly, I'm repeating myself, the emphasis on that 3rd grade class next year, making sure they get the support they need. We are implementing an additional RTI position, and we're going to be focusing on literacy and math at 2-3 with Molly Bell and our new hire at the 4-5 for both literacy and math. So we'll start to do more interventions in the math area of math instruction as well. And then looking ahead to 2021, first to the right, our numbers, and these align with what Bill's report showed, 333. And as we look to next year already, we're at 343. So every grade level has been increasing. I think we got a couple of twins in 4th grade call today about enrolling. So we'll continue to see that number climb towards the 370, 380 level, I'm sure, by August. Blodgett right now is at 20 for next year, and we anticipate some increased growth out there as well. It is planned to have staffed a 3-4 teacher and a K2 teacher. So we do hope to see those numbers increase out there at Blodgett. In terms of new staff, I think these have been announced, most of them. Lexi DeVick is our new counselor coming out of Monroe. Jake Craig, our new PE teacher, coming out of Pendleton, who's student taught here, by the way. We just today hired Emily Helpenstell. Actually, we are, in a sense, moving Emily Helpenstell to our 4th, 5th RTI TOSA position. Very excited about that. She is a strong leader, a strong educator, and she's really excited about supporting the 4-5 team in supporting literacy and math. So therefore, we will be looking for a replacement for Emily in 5th grade. And I think you probably already know this, Elaine Hall has moved out to Blodgett in 3rd, 4th. And then Mike is doing interviews with IAs this week. I think we have at least 2 to hire and perhaps a third. And I believe that ends my presentation. So what questions can I answer? I didn't quite get as cheerleader as Abby did, but great staff we have here, and I am very proud of them and the kids. And PES is going to, I think, show some really significant growth next year.
Yeah, good, solid presentation, Brian. So no apologies at all. What I was going to ask, and I'm not sure for you or Susan, but and I'm drawing a blank now exactly when and what, but we adopted some new reading curriculum, I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago. Was that ringing a bell? And maybe checking with Susan too. Is that kind of taking hold? Are we starting to see any positive benefits from making that change?
Susan, was that 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think the consistency of a common curriculum has been good. We're still finding places where it has great strength and places where it has some holes. But the idea of everybody using the same thing and getting on common ground is good. The other nice part is that it's rooted in a science and social studies foundation as well. So it's kind of a multi-purpose set of instructional materials. The other piece of the power has been the things that we've purchased to use for interventions. So things like phonics for reading, the ECRI and Hegarty programs that are being used at Clemens Primary School. Some of those sorts of things that are the supplementary supports for students who have higher levels of need have really been the linchpin to be able to do that. Being able to take a look at really seeing who are those students at 4th grade that are having difficulty with phonics. And we're not used to teaching phonics to students at 4th grade because they should know it by then. But to actually find that out and be able to put an intervention in place that helps make that better, I think that combination has been a pretty good set of tools to be able to apply.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, let's piggyback one more time on Abby's presentation at CPS. It is truly commendable, the level of collaboration that CPS has. And I do think that's a PES goal, is to see our grade level team collaboration strengthened. I think having Emily come in at the 4-5 level will help with that, because that collaboration, work on the same page, is going to help move our students forward.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Great work.
Thank you, guys.
Are there any other questions for Brian? All right, thank you so much for bringing us that presentation this evening and for all your hard work this last year. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is a summer school update. Is that you, Susan, or Dr. Johnson?
That should be me.
Okay, hi.
Good evening. Excited about summer school. I'm going to start at the kind of the bottom of my Excel spreadsheet. Our hopes and expectations for the actual instructional piece of summer school is we're hoping to have up to 60 students at the kindergarten through 5th grade in our literacy camp that we're hosting in August. Summer school will be the entire month of August. It's 4 weeks, beginning the 2nd, going through the 27th, for about 3 hours a day. In week 3, we do a kind of a move around on time from mornings to afternoon to allow for fresh start or jump start. I always call it fresh start. Sorry, Abby. But and so that we can get students into the buildings and get comfortable with wandering around CPS. The high school and the middle school are running an online summer school. At this time in June, we have 30 students actively involved in the mornings, working on credit recovery, high school only, and they complete this week on Friday, and we've had some students beginning to make progress on getting credits caught up. It's amazing when you can spend between 3 to 6 hours a day on one subject, how focused you can get to help get your skills built back up and credits acquired. We're really working to help students get back on track who may have gotten a little off track. The other exciting piece that's going on this summer is our enrichment camps are. And what you see in front of you is a list of them by date and current enrollments. August, the first 2 weeks of August, we have great success. I'm going to throw a shout out to Grace Spalding, who offered us a 1-week STEAM camp. And as I went to begin looking at enrollment, she initially said it would be nice to keep that enrollment to about 20. I had to call her and said, Grace, we have a small problem. You currently have 45 students enrolled. And I called Miss Halliday and said, hey, what do you think about 2 weeks of STEAM camp? And she said, go for it. And so we're going for it. Grace is currently winning in the enrollment numbers. So I challenge everybody to help build up with their numbers. So as you can see, we start off with a choir camp in the middle of July. We go have a band camp the week after that. We've got some yoga, 3D printing, music writing. We've got 2 different sports camps that first week for various age groups. We've got an animal adventure coming in with Mr. Kilday's son, and I'm working to get the courage to go pet the snake, but because Ryan told me it would be okay. But for those who don't know me, snakes and I have a great arrangement. They stay over there. I don't come into the room.
Yeah, just keep the little dog away is all my only.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, sir. Great advice. So, we've got the STEAM camp. We've got a drama camp that's going to go on for 2 weeks. Excited to see the performances for that. We've had Oregon State come in, and they're offering a middle school camp that's being ran through them. So I can't give you what the numbers on registration on that is. And as we go through, we're working with Corvallis Food Service to have meals available and ready for the participants. We've got busing arranged where we'll bus in for the morning educational sessions, and then we'll run a bus home after lunch and one at the end of the enrichment opportunities. So students have an opportunity to participate. Parents can, work their work schedule, or for some, maybe even have a respite, because I'm sure there's a few parents out there that may need a little respite from the 15 months of COVID that's been circulating their house as well. So that's really where we're beginning with summer camp or summer school. Summer campus it actually works as well. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any and all of them.
I have a question. So I know when we talked about summer school before, I think we mostly just focused on the literacy camp, the credit recovery, the online skills enhancement, and Jumpstart, and those were going to be covered by grant money, so there weren't fees to parents and students. And these other camps that you just presented to us, are those fees also covered by the grant?
Yes.
Wow.
We've been very blessed. I'm crossing my fingers for the faint rumor I heard, and I'm going to put it out there hopefully so that the state hears and goes, okay, Dan, we'll give it to you as well, that there may be some monies for next summer for a similar concept. The concept the state has asked for us to do really is engagement, getting students back engaged in learning. And the challenge this summer is, besides the learning pieces that we know we need to help, but make learning fun. Really find ways to enrich the opportunities so that it opens up possibilities. And I wish we could do this for the next 15 years or until I retire, which, ever comes first.
Well, that's super good news that those are covered and the enrollment numbers look great. The only other question I would have is if a student or parent had missed the enrollment deadline, is it still possible for them to get enrolled in any of these camps?
Enrollment is actually through Thursday.
Okay.
And I am sure we're like with the literacy camps and whatnot, they would, we'll do what we can to get everybody in to really, just enhance and enrich. And then, with the theme of the last couple of reports, make them all like Abby excited.
Well, thank you for all your work.
I'm sorry, we have 38 right now, and we're definitely going to keep the door open till the week before August 2nd.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for Dr. Johnson?
I don't have a question, but the other piece of it is just to let you know that we are also with the grant funding partnering with PYAC and with Maxtivity to be able to provide some student opportunities as well as helping to cover the cost of Safety Town to be able to make that work as well. So it's rather than starting up our own childcare, which we would have to hire staff, purchase everything for, we're taking advantage of some community opportunities to meet the needs of at least, what, Dan, probably 30, 40, maybe 50 kids in varying degrees in partnerships there as well.
And then one, I'll just put out there so you can think on overnight, Susan. I was talking with Daniel at the pool, and there may be a way we can work together to even help students with some swimming lessons. Because to me, that's a skill that definitely we need to make available.
That would be great. Anything else? That's super great news. Thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is course schedule options discussion. So Susan, I'm going to let you bring that forth to the board, please. Yeah, what I wanted to do was to make the board aware of conversations that we have started in part through our negotiations with our teachers union. And excuse me, we can decide on a schedule, but it takes us back to some conversations about semester scheduling and being able to take a look at that as its level of viability. The reason for me to be able to raise that and bring that forward at this point in time, and it isn't to be able to make that determination for this year. It is to be able to look at that schedule for next year so that we have time to be able to engage in the collaborative conversations that will make things work, as opposed to just saying, for instance, we will have a 7-period day schedule. We can take a look at, is it a 7-period day and there are a couple of days in the course of the week that are blocked that can account for lab times or extended class opportunity, things like that to be able to look at. One of the other things that we want to do is take a look at some of our own students to be able to say, what does this mean in the face of both some students who may be struggling and students who are over the bar, for lack of anything else to call it, and how any of those changes could meet needs. My biggest emphasis right now to be able to look at and make good decisions around have to do with opportunities in a day that we're looking at. Currently, students have 5 class periods in a day for which they have an opportunity in a trimester system that we know truncates or speeds up the amount of material in the course of that trimester time. So instead of a 16-week period, you're looking at condensing it to a 12-week period. So it jams it together. And we already have some classes that we say they're 2 trimesters, but they really need to be 3. And so how do we take a look at that and be able to really see what's happening and what matters? If I have this is just one example. The conversation I've had is if I have a 5-period day and I am involved in a functional academics class and I have freshman PE, language arts, math, and science,
I can't take, there's nothing else I can do in there. I can't take a social studies class. I can't take an art class. I can't take some of those other things because my day just isn't big enough for that. If I have 7 periods in a day, as an example, and I have a functional academics class, I can have freshman PE, math, science, language arts, and I've got 2 out here that I can either find an elective that is my joy in the school and my break in the day, so that I could take choir, I could take something like that. Or the other thing that we can look at is if I really can't handle 7 class periods in a day because it's just too much for me, can I take 6? Yeah, and you can still earn enough credits to be able to graduate on time. It's taking a look at what experiences students have on a daily basis. It's taking a look at also how we schedule, so that I'm not a freshman that gets freshman PE, freshman success, foods, and math and health in my first quarter and think that high school is the best thing since sliced bread. And then I have to take all my math classes and my science classes and my heavy content for the rest of the year. So there can be some things that we can look at in that way also, but it's really a way of being able to take a look at what makes sense for us in a best interest of our kids, which is why it was raised and why it's been raised from the standpoint of let's take a look at our own kids and let's really consider where we are. By the time it's in a trimester system, you've got the opportunity for 60 class periods in the course of a year. You've got 56, I think I calculated out, in the course of a semester system. Can students still graduate appropriately with that? Yes. In fact, it may even keep some of our students, when we get some seniors at the very end that either drop to a half a day or have all their credits done, it may just take them a little longer to get the credits that they have. But we want to engage in being able to, I want to be able to engage in hearing what really makes sense and engaging in the dialogue for what works best for our kids. Because I know that the conversation has been raised before about a trimester semester schedule, I wanted to be able to make the board fully aware of the conversations that we've been having and take a look at the things that, granted, COVID has some things to do with it, but in terms of students not being on track to graduate, where are we with students meeting benchmarks in a variety of places that we want to based on our core standards, and where we want students to be successful in math and reading and technology and those kinds of things, and how that moves from there. So that's kind of where we are and some of what we've been talking about. So I wanted to put it out there for discussion, comment, question.
And I'd just like to point out, we're looking to not the 21-22 school year, but starting with 2022-23 school year,
Yes,
correct?
that is correct. That is correct. So it would give us this time to be able to make sure that we can engage in appropriate dialogue and be able to make good decisions.
There are questions or comments for Susan?
I had some comments. I figure it's my last chance to make comments, so I'll make them. So first off, just want to, just say thanks for the opportunity to finally talk and share my concerns, perspective as a board member, parent, and taxpayer. This is the first time in 12 years I've really had the chance to, 11 years, 11 months, and 21 days. Not that I'm counting. But first time I've had a chance to really express my opinions on this. I've had 7 kids that have gone through the high school, so I've got 28 years of high school experience, and I'm not an idiot when it comes to these things. I've got 6 kids that have gone all the way through the district from kindergarten through graduation, so I've got a pretty good perspective across the various schools. And to Susan's point, I know in our PEA negotiations last week, I think Greg Hudson asked the question about why is this coming up again? Well, the reason it comes up again, it's pretty simple. It's when this has come up in the past, the past approaches, and I'll be honest too. I mean, I feel like I just need to be honest with people, right? But I think the past approaches have met with the approach from high school staff has been protest and kind of shutting down conversations. So we really haven't had discussions about merits and trade-offs as a result of that. And it keeps coming up as a topic because it hasn't been discussed and processed and closed satisfactory or what I would say professionally either. My concerns really are 3. The continuity of curriculum, access and availability of classes to students, and I would say the inability to embrace continuous improvement at the high school. So on the continuity of curriculum, the board has heard a lot of discussions over the past few years about gaps in curriculum across the trimester system, especially with math. And that resurfaces every time the topic is brought up, and schedule fixes end up being the solution. But the schedule fixes never materialize, and it comes up again and again and again. And one fact that really sticks with me that I personally view as a failure in my time as a board is so half of our graduates are not proficient in math. Right. And this has been true for a lot of years. We've got half of the kids that graduate are not proficient in math. And we hear repeatedly that we've got gaps in math curriculum at the high school that goes on a regular basis because of the trimester system. The percentage of our kids that aren't proficient in math is much higher for the economically disadvantaged. It's much higher. And I just did the math. Since I've been on the board, that means about 750 kids have walked on that graduation stage not proficient in math. And I feel like I'm to blame for having that be our, one of our claims, I guess, in terms of what we're providing for students. So we've also shortened some of the AP courses. We've seen lower test or pass scores as a result. We've gone back to full year courses instead. And I kind of looked at, why offer courses at all if we're not looking for ultimately for students to be successful in the classes. And there's a lot of indicators that really point to having full year uninterrupted curriculum as one of the keys to really improving student success. So anyway, one is continuity of curriculum. Second is access and availability of classes to students. So we've got a 5-day period that restricts choices for students, like Susan was mentioning. We've gone to the community twice for operating levies to maintain our programs, especially our performing arts and our CTE. We've mentioned specifically our performing arts program and the outstanding programs we have, and we go to justify operating levies, which the public is paying extra for. And then, we fund music all the way from the 5th grade through the 12th grade. We've got, in the bond measure, we built a facility that now can, for the first time, we've got a place where we can have performing arts, rather than setting up chairs in the gym, right? So we've made all these improvements and investments in performing arts. We've got a great culinary arts facility, but the schedule at the high school limits the ability of the kids to take some of those courses, which makes no sense whatsoever to me. So we're making all these investments in these electives and programs, to Susan's point, that really helps kids get engaged and stay engaged in school, but yet the schedule that we've got really limits the choices and the options. And then the last point, the third point, is just I just really see there's just an inability to really embrace a continuous improvement process at the high school. I mean, I've been through all the schools with all the kids. We had excellent presentations tonight from both Abby and Brian. I would love to see that kind of work at some point in time coming out of high school. But it's not just about the graduation rate as the only measure. I think we just need to really take a hard look at what is the data showing us in terms of how our kids are performing, how we can make things better for our kids. You know, and at the end of the day, I would say, and again, just being very honest, we've got an above average high school, which I think is fine. But I would love to see us really kind of going after more state of excellence. So, I mean, as far as my feelings, and I should have said right at the start, these are my personal feelings. This is by no way represents the feelings of the board. So those are my comments for what they're worth.
Thank you.
Well stated, Jim. Outstanding and some very solid points. And we have talked about some of this for a few years with never any real movement on it. Heads nodding, discussions, but no movement. And the kids, our students, are the ones who suffer. So thank you, Jim.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
Susan, I know you love data. So what can you tell me? What can you tell me? What does the data show about semesters versus trimesters? What are we looking at? Are there trends?
It can show you whatever you want it to show you. You know, you can make a trimester sound excellent, and you can make a semester sound excellent. You know, however you look at it to be compelling one way or another, that way, trimesters were a great way to go. At the time we went to a trimester system, and it's kind of all over the board right now in terms of what happens. I mean, we know also that the West Albany students walked out when they lost 8 periods to 7 in the course of a day. And so I'm trying to establish as much information as I can get about what is it that makes sense for our kids. One of the things that I've always struggled with is number of daily opportunities. The other part of that is, it was right there and it just went, yeah, it's gone. Anyway, it'll come back to me that we've got a level of consistency. The students that do school in spite of us. The other part of it that we can take a look at also, that I'm trying to dig into a little bit, is what do we need to do in terms of professional learning or not, about effective use of instructional time for 70 minutes versus 50 minutes versus 45 minutes. You know, we've had our middle school in that kind of a schedule for a while, so what can we learn from them? What can we learn from other high schools, but also what can we learn from our own students that's going to tell us something? So I don't think that answered the question the way you wanted to, but in conversations that Dr. Cerny and I have had, one of the things that we've both talked about is you can make a case for either scenario to be able to be the best thing since sliced bread.
And so for instructional time, I mean, when you go to having only 3, or you go from 3 trimesters to 2 semesters, does that, and limited class periods during the time, how does that equal out during the course of the year?
Surprisingly, it does. That it really does equal itself out in terms of you know, a 70-minute block for 12 weeks versus a 50-minute block for 16 weeks. And the consistency of being able to have something over a year. The other part of it is there's less need to truncate instructional materials into that 12 weeks, that you've actually got the 16 weeks to be able to take a look at that. So those are just a couple of things that I'm really working hard to do my research to be able to say, what is it that's really fitting in terms of making decisions for the students that we have. We've got some students on a higher end that want to get through faster. And they need to move more quickly. So it's how do we listen to them also in terms of what their needs are. Do we need to get all of our students through by the time they're through first semester of their senior year, so they're half-time or have off blocks or things like that? Or do we really spread out the opportunity of being able to make sure things are truly cemented as knowledge and skill? And so it's like I said, it's those kinds of things that I'm trying to do every ounce of investigation I can to be able to take a look at our kids. That's something that we've talked about with Dr. Cerny and myself too, is being able to, what does this mean for our kids?
Well, I appreciate that. I am sold just on the math alone, having math year round and giving children more opportunities. I know I could just speak for my own family and my children. Based on the schedule, they had to end up dropping things like band. It just couldn't fit into their schedule anymore if they were going to take some of these other courses. So it makes you have hard choices, and I would like to have seen them have more opportunities during a day to get other things in.
Any other? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll keep it really short.
It's okay.
But no, I really, and mostly for incoming board members too, and sustaining board members, I really appreciate Susan's approach and your commitment to do, what's right for the kids and have the dialogue about, what are the trade-offs and options and solutions, and just your knowledge of the district. And you can tell you're caring and passionate about this is right where it should be. So anyway, so thanks for all the hard work you're doing on this. I think it's great.
So tonight, there's no action needed on this. We just wanted to bring it forth to the board and the public for open discussion. I know that as a district, we're looking to provide the most, ultimately provide the most opportunities for our students, both low performing all the way to high performing, and then address concerns that have been going on for continuity, student pathways, and then as Jim mentioned, some areas of proficiency. And so we just wanted to bring this conversation forth and know that Susan's working on looking into how best the district can address those areas of concern. So if there's no other questions, we'll move on. Okay, seeing no other questions, the next agenda item are salary agreements with administrators and unrepresented. Susan, I think that's back to you.
And I just wanted to let the board know, we don't have unions per se that we work with in these two categories with our administrators and our unrepresented or supervisory staff. And so what we've done, thanks in large part to Bill Mancuso and Jennifer Griffith in the business office, have poured over data like you can't imagine to be able to take a look at our we started out and did first our administrative schedules. I don't know if you remember before Superintendent Forbes left, the administrators were on an agreement of a 2 or 3 year agreement, and that went away to, it was kind of an each person every year all to themselves in the administrator classification. And so we've run into inconsistency of salary placement and being behind and all kinds of things like that. And so it really was our opportunity to be able to say, let's get back on a 2-year commitment to being able to pull out an agreement for our administrators. And then the same thing, being able to make sure we were being consistent with our supervisory and unrepresented staff, and really having clear agreements that both groups could be supportive of. And so that's what we have done. And it takes a look at the same kinds of things as professional learning and sick leave and everything else that kind of goes along with it. But we put it in a 2-year cycle for administrators that we believe will be It'll give us a chance to try things. And we did it based on averages of the COSA, the School Administrator Salary Studies for for administrative professionals, and crafted ours on percentages from those averages to be able to determine what our levels would be. And we're going to give that a run for a year. And the same thing we looked at in terms of really trying to address the equitability of the salaries and the schedules that we have set up for all our other unrepresented and supervisory staff. So it's just to let you know that we've done that. Each of those groups we've put on a 1.5% cost of living increase, which is the same thing we agreed to with our classified union. And so we wanted to be consistent in not exceeding that beyond what we set with our classified staff. And so that is the agreed upon COLA that we've entered into in those agreements. We will share those with the board, just so you know. The admin is done and signed, and we're in process of getting signatures for the supervised and unrepresented right now. So just wanted to put that out there, that that's what we've been working on.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any questions in regards to the salary agreements? All right, thank you for that update, Susan. Next on our agenda is the superintendent contract, and there is action required on that. So I will kind of go over this, not the full thing, but just some things that I feel we might want to point out so that we can take action to approve Superintendent Halliday's contract going forward. A copy of the contract is in your packet. Director Skinkis and I met with Superintendent Halliday to go over the contract, and you'll see that it is a 3-year contract, which is very standard. It starts the first day of July 2021 and goes through the end of June 2024. I wanted to point out, just for the future board, that on or before March 15th of 2023, the board may notify the superintendent in writing of the district's intention to either issue a new 3-year contract, extend the current contract for not more than 1 year, or provide in writing notice that this contract will not be renewed or extended. When we have our work session later this week, I will, I've been already trying to capture these important dates and add them to the board planning calendar. So I will include that on there for future reference. For salary, the board approved a range for salary back in February when we were initially looking to do a superintendent search. We stayed within that range, and for a salary of $135,000 a year. The superintendent's salary for years 2 and 3 of this contract shall be increased by 1.5% per year for cost of living. This is again in line with what Susan just spoke to for our classified staff, and now for the administrative salaries that she just spoke about. Nothing that necessarily needs to be pointed out on page 2. On page 3, I'll point out that we are going, this isn't already in line with her interim contract. We're going with 20 days of vacation each year to include the holidays that are observed by the district. A maximum of 5 vacation days can be carried over. However, one thing I wanted to point out is in our discussions, it came to our attention that Susan has not been able to take much, if any, vacation time this last year. And we all know why. And so in the contract, we're requesting a one-time exception for her to carry over an additional 5 days for the coming year that have not been able to be used, so she can use them this coming July, so next month. And that is included in the contract for a one-time approval. Fringe benefits stayed the same for her current contribution to her 403B retirement account. For housing, we do have a policy that states that the superintendent will live within the Philomath School District boundaries. However, Superintendent Halliday currently lives outside of those boundaries, and we certainly wouldn't expect her to move. So we added to the contract the board, unless otherwise approved by the board, and the board has approved the superintendent to keep her current residence in Corvallis. I think that is really all that needs to be, that I felt needed to be pointed out. But if there are any questions anyone has with regards to the contract, please feel free to ask those now. Susan, is there anything you, oh, go ahead, Jim, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't have any questions. I didn't know if you were
Okay.
ready for a motion or not.
Susan, did you have anything to add at all? No? Okay, yes, please do.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve and adopt the superintendent's contract with Ms. Halliday as outlined in our packet.
I'll
I'll
second that.
second that.
Okay, we have a motion and at least 1 second. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Great, thank you.
I would just like to say thank you very much to the board, to Karen and Shelley for negotiating with me. It has been a year of learning a lot, and learning a lot by being at-a-girled and stabbed and a little bit of everything. But it's always about the learning from the people who are there and closest to us. We did a survey of staff at the end of the year, and I said, if you've got words of wisdom for your superintendent, please give them to me. So I have yet to go through that to see what's there, but that's the kind of relationship I want to have. I want to make sure that we are collaborative and working together in the best interest and needs of our students. And I'll say it again, Philomath is home for me. So I feel like I am blessed, and I'm truly grateful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for all your hard work, and hope you enjoy those 5 days of vacation. They're well earned.
I'm telling people that my attitude needs to be adjusted for all the people I work with.
Okay, next on our agenda is Philomath City request updates. My understanding is we might need to table these, but let's have that discussion. So Susan, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. I told Shelley that I had some additional information, because the word that I got was the only thing right now that we really need to be concerned about is making sure that if the area by the track is to be ripped up, we want to make sure that on whose dime will that be to be able to put that back together again. Because if we have to, in an easement that, or excuse me, in a sewer line or water line that has been there since before the track, is just now getting to the easement stage and something has been put on top of it, we want to make sure that we're looked out for. And I tried every way from Sunday to look up the book and the page for the map and the information, and I failed dismally. So I would really rather get this right. And so instead of approving them, I would like to table those to make sure that I know which of those high school easement requests involve the area around the track, so that we can make sure the language is correct.
I absolutely agree with that. I think we want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before we take action on these items, especially since they are retroactive. So if any other board members have questions or comments with regards to tabling this, please go ahead and let us know.
I guess comment, I presume that's the same for the forestry building, the batting cage where you've got it going directly underneath. And then I'm trying to recall last month, if this was last month, did we also have legal counsel review this?
Yeah, and what he asked me was, he said, find out those places that have things currently sitting on top of them and have me review those, because he said, I don't think you want to pay me to review all of them. So if there's something that's not an issue with something on top of it, we'll trust the legal language to be able to move forward. So yes, Paul has been in on that to be able to help us out.
Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns?
Is this on the agenda for our work session this week with the new board? Because I think that would be helpful as well to talk about this with them.
I'm not sure off the top of my head if it is, but we can certainly include that in our conversation.
It would be helpful, I think. Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I agree with putting this off, but I'm wondering, do we know who to ask? I guess is it a question that we ask of the city that we'll get a straight answer on? I mean, is that who we'll ask? Or
I've asked Joey to sit with me, because the nice little picture, I mean, I'm one of those, turn at the white picket fence and, things like that, that's my directional skill. So when I see that nice little picture, and then I go to the maps part of it that just gives you this much of what's supposed to be there, I can't tell where on the diagram that really lives. And so I just need help being able to know which piece of property I'm looking at. So I've asked Joey to help me out. And if Joey can't help me out with that, then we'll go to the city and ask them.
yeah, but it's kind of, and I don't quite understand is what's already in the ground. Because my assumption is all this stuff is in the ground already, and then does that give right to disturb or disrupt or cut down trees, Anton's point, get into the forestry building or the batting cages or whatever. That's the part I'm not sure what the legal terms are and what it allows the city to do without her.
That's what we want, because the last thing we want is for them to dig up the track.
Yeah.
We've got to repair it at least, I don't know how many thousands of dollars to be able to repair that thing at our expense versus city's expense if there's choice or need to be able to do that. So I want to make sure those are really clear.
Yeah.
Okay. If any information you can find out before our work session, Susan, would be greatly helpful.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead and table the Philomath City requests until further notice. Next on the agenda is the Kings Valley Charter School enrollment increase discussion. Is Jamin joining us, or Susan, are you going to speak to that?
I'm going to speak to it. He's actually in Montana with a daughter. So
okay.
When we talked last at our joint board work session, that was when the information came up that there was a look for an addition of 10 students at the middle school level and 10 students at the elementary level. And so we wanted to make sure there was clarity there. And so in conversation with Jamin, he put together I asked him to put together the proposal information so that what he's looking at really right now is his middle school level to be able to add 10 students to be able to take away the blended classes. And so he says that we've made adjustments to separate our blended grades in the middle school and now can increase the number of students from 50 to 60 while decreasing the class sizes from 24 to 20. And by the way, I told him that there's no expectation of approval tonight if there's questions specific for him and things like that. This would increase our overall enrollment from 208 to 218 students. The one thing that is pending, he's got classroom space available, but he still has to get the authorization notice for the septic system. So anything, if we were to make a determination about an increase at any point in time, it's all pending the approval of the septic system to handle the heft of those 10 additional students. And so even if we said, yes, move ahead with 10, and this comes back as a not okay, we don't do anything. He's referenced some additional staffing and systems that are complete and says at this time, the elementary enrollment increase is under review and will not be requested at this particular time. So he's backed it down to just the middle school. We also know that the charter agreement comes up at the end of this coming school year. And so we will be into that whole conversation again, just in terms of the charter agreement and pieces of that. I still have to look at some of the MOUs that have been done over the past couple of years to make sure I know for sure where we are in different places. But this was his request to really try to get rid of some of his blended classes. So I told him I would bring this forward as what he and I had talked about.
Are there any questions for Susan or Jamin?
Well, it seems like a reasonable request, and I'm trying to remember the joint meeting we had with Kings Valley. It's weren't they talking about this as well? I'm trying to remember. I was looking at my notes, trying to remember. Was there
that was where we thought it was 10, and it was actually 20 because they wanted to do the middle school and the elementary school. We're still working on the conversations about their special education. So we had talked about the other piece of that right now the district special education information is 10% and Kings Valley's at 15%. And we know that if they added at that point 20 students, there's a liability that 15% of those could be special education students for which we're needing to investigate the equitability of where the money's going to be able to support our special ed needs at Kings Valley as well as in the district in terms of special ed director time, school psychologist time, LBO behavior support time, things like that, to be able to make sure that we know where we stand there as well. So that's another ongoing piece of conversation.
So for now, that's ongoing and to be determined. And now we're just looking at the 10.
Right. That's what he's asking for right now. And we can either move ahead with that. We can say we want to wait a year and wait till the charter comes up. We can wait till some of the special ed conversations happen. The special ed considerations are probably going to be answered over the course of this school year as we kind of take a look at all the ins and outs of where we are just in terms of time needs, especially for special education.
Do they have the demand to fill those extra 10 spots?
They have always continued to have a high wait list, and they are the one school that didn't lose kids this year to other areas and other schools. So my belief is that they would be able to fill them.
Do we know if the kids that are like on their wait list are pulling from the schools here in Philomath, or are they coming from outside areas in that?
That I don't know. That I don't know. And I'm still working out on that information to be able to make sure we have a real clear count on percentage of Philomath students who are attending at Kings Valley versus percentage of students who are attending from other districts at Kings Valley, just so that we can have that information. Not that it matters, but just so that we have it.
Right, because I fully support the option being available for our kids to go to Kings Valley. I think they have a great program out there. I'm just curious if it's something that's going to help boost numbers overall in our district, or if it's just going to move numbers in our district.
And that I don't know.
Yeah, from what I recall, and it seems like we asked Jamin this in our meeting, but it's, ballpark-ish, it's like 50-50 in district, out of district. And it's sometimes it's 40-60 and sometimes it flips the other way, but it's in that ballpark is what I remember. But one question I was going to ask Susan, I was looking on the Edu portal. Do we, and when you mentioned the charter is coming up for renewal soon, do we have a good handle on what the latest agreement is with Kings Valley and all the MOUs and all that? Is that?
That's what I need. That's going to be my July reading.
Okay. Well, don't do it on vacation.
My August reading.
But as soon as you're back.
Yeah. So that will be where I need to bring myself up to speed on what the agreement and what any MOUs mean in terms of how they impact that agreement. And I just need to get in and read.
Okay, thanks.
And I guess the only piece of clarity that I think would be worth considering, having, seen historical pieces with Kings Valley is, if you add 10 middle school students, hypothetically in 2 or 3 years, likely a request will be to add 10 high school students, because those middle school students will now, be entering high school. And so same with the elementary, just being thoughtful of that long-term impact. I don't know if it is an impact.
And I agree with you. I agree, because the other thing that it's doing is it's adding students, but it's also taking their class numbers from 24 to 20, which doesn't sound significant, but it's a difference when you can have fewer students in a class. I understand why he's doing it, because blending, it just gets to be a real struggle. But I didn't guarantee him any decision. So if there's information you want me to gather, I'm happy to gather and either bring it forward Wednesday evening or, whatever we need to do for that.
I guess for me, it would just be, either recommendation from you and or partnership with Bill or Jamin on, what are the, impacts long-term, I guess, if in 2 years we add 10 more high school students, or 1 year we add 10 more elementary school students. I guess I don't have a handle on if any impacts there really are to the overall district that should be discussed or considered, I guess would be my question.
Yeah, and then I would say, given that piece of information, that maybe this is another piece that we add to Wednesday, if I can get some information from Jamin.
I think that sounds good. So if we are okay with that, we will also table this enrollment increase for Kings Valley discussion until our work session. Okay. Thank you. Next are our action items. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, which was pretty full. Does anybody have any questions or comments with regards to the consent agenda as presented in our packet? Lots of personnel and staffing adjustments. I think it's mostly based on the summer school sessions and all the camps. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the consent agenda? No? Would somebody like, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Maybe just a question for Susan, if she supports or endorses all the changes in people, I guess, that are listed on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I do. It's one of the things that we've been working diligently on is to make sure that those people we moved this year are brought back to where they need to be, and that the deck chairs that we shuffled are now put back in the place that they were at the beginning of the year. So we've really worked hard at being able to make sure that we have all those things completed. But yes, this is a very supported group of folks.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's a long list.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as it appears in our packet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is a complaint against an employee. We did hear a complaint and have discussion during our executive session prior to this board meeting. And we need to take action on that complaint. And so one of the action items that we need to consider is whether to proceed with an investigation by a third party. So I'd like to
I would like to make a
have some
motion.
action on that. Go ahead.
I'd like
I'm
to make a
sorry.
motion that we not proceed with an investigation
Okay.
at this time.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to not proceed with the investigation. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of not proceeding with an investigation, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? Okay. And then secondly, is there a motion on how to proceed with this complaint?
I'll make a motion to deny the complaint and then authorize the board chair to provide the complainant with a written response per board policy.
Okay, we have a motion not to to deny the complaint.
I'll second that.
Okay, and a second. Is there any further discussion? Questions? Okay, so we have a motion to deny the complaint and then to have myself respond to the complaint on behalf of the board per our policy. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, next on our agenda, policies. So we have 4 policies and 1 AR related to policy IIBGA. This is the second reading of these policies. So I'm sure we've all had time to read them now, but if there are any questions or changes, please go ahead and open that up for discussion. Otherwise, we can make a motion to approve these policies tonight. Anyone like to approve the
I guess
policy?
I'll make a motion that we approve the policies as in our packet and with the removal of the italicized text in the final versions.
Right.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the policies as presented with removal of the italicized wording, which I can sit down with Lily and make sure we go over those correctly. So all in favor of approving the policies in the 1 AR as presented, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We were at the end. How about board thanks?
I would like to start off by thanking the parents of the senior class who really rallied this year to pull off quite the celebration for our kids. From the parades and the banners and the yard signs to a prom and a party, it was phenomenal. And I fully admit I did not think that it could happen, and they proved me wrong, and it was impressive. And so kudos to them. They did an outstanding job. Also, thank you to Shelley, Jim, and Greg. You're going to be sorely missed around here. I have appreciated working with you, and that you always have the kids' best interest at heart. And like I said, you will be missed.
Thank you. Any other board thanks?
I wanted to say thanks for the entire district staff for all the help and support over the years, not only for me as a board member, but for all my kids all the way through the school, because I know it was a lot of work. It was a lot of kids. But thank you for all the help and support you've given. And then thanks to the parents in the community for allowing us to serve on the board, allowing me to serve on the board. It's been quite an experience, but I'm glad to turn over the reins to the new board. So looking forward to it. But thanks to everyone, staff and community that make this a great school district. So thank you.
Well, it's hard to beat Jim and Karen's thanks, but I echo everything that they said. Thanks to the parents, the community, the district staff, teachers, and especially you fellow board members. It's been a pleasure. It is a lot of work. It's very rewarding. So thanks very much. Welcome to Joe and Aaron, incoming new board members, and welcome back to Rick. Wish you all the best of luck, and it's been very enjoyable. So thank you all.
Yeah, I want to echo the sentiments expressed by the other board members, certainly by Karen, to Greg and Shelley and Jim, for your service to the school, community, students. I appreciated working with you, and like Karen said, each of our conversations, knowing that you're putting the students' best interest in all the decisions you've made. Also want to acknowledge Kim St. Clair. I know we heard about the recognition at the beginning of the meeting, but to be recognized by your colleagues, as many colleagues as signatures were on that, demonstrates a commitment to your students, but also to your fellow colleagues, and so that's commendable. And then we heard also from the spring sports, capped off with the girls tennis and their showcase championship, and so just a great effort for student athletes to continue to strive in this challenging year. So thanks. Those are mine.
Thank you. Only thing I would add is just to congratulate all our graduates, both from Paloma School District as well as Kings Valley, and just thank everyone at the high school who coordinated the graduation. It went extremely smooth, and it was wonderful to see that the class got to graduate together in one ceremony. So kudos to everyone that was involved in that. And on a personal level, I would just like to thank everyone in the district and our community for the opportunity to serve on the school board these past 4 years. It definitely has been challenging, but I feel like we have gotten some really good work accomplished, and I will continue to support this cause as a parent. And again, just thank everyone for their support these last 4 years. And I guess that's it for board thanks. Before we close out, I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have a board work session this Wednesday from 6 to 8. That is going to be in person in the district conference room. So if anyone is unable to make that in person, if you'll just let Susan or Lillian know, we'll try to accommodate getting you hooked up on Zoom. And then also the incoming board has their first regular board meeting on July 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. So I think with that, we can close out for the evening unless anybody else has something. Jim, did you have one more thing?
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, no, that's kind of just like come off me.
I just came
All
off
right.
mute. I was just going to say thanks and good night, but.
Okay, well, that's the way to close it out. Thanks and good night at 9:30 p.m. Good night, everybody.